Okay, I'm rolling. So I'm preparing a piano for a piece by John Cage called The Bacchanal. It was written in 1940, and it was the first piece that John Cage wrote for what we call now the prepared piano. What that means is that there are things I will insert in strings that will modify the sound of the piano. Like most things, this was a result of necessity. John Cage was asked to write an accompaniment, music accompaniment for a dance piece. And he really wanted to do a percussion piece, but all there was in this room was an old piano. And there was, of course, no budget. So he was not the first person to fiddle around with strings and modify the sounds. He was the one who sort of made it really into a creative effort. So after this piece, the Bacchanal, in 1948, he will write a large set called Sonatas and Interludes, which is about an hour long, which is kind of his perhaps masterpiece for the prepared piano, in which the preparation is much more elaborate than for the Bacchanal. The Bacchanal's preparation is fairly simple. It's mostly weather stripping, one bolt and one screw with two washers. Today's weather stripping actually is an adhesive tape, so it would not be so great for the strings. So I'm told that in 1940s weather stripping was basically felt. So I get felt for the stripping part, and then I have a screw with two washers, and I have a couple of bolts to find out what's the right size and right thickness. Each piano is slightly different as far as the width between the strings, so it does vary. I dislike to check luggage, so when I travel, I always have to find screws and bolts somewhere, so I'm very grateful to the crew of the hall that helped me locate my old toys. So we will insert a few things here. So let's start with weather stripping. So it says on this note, he tells me it's going to be between the second and the third string. There are three strings that are on this note, and he tells me between the second and the third strings, and it's going to be 3 inches from the damper. So that will be something like this. So it mutes the sound. It has a little sort of thud to it. And then we have another weather stripping this note. No piano will be harmed in this. Now we have a screw and with two washers on this note, and in order not to compromise the strings in any way, I will press the right pedal, which will lift the dampers, which have these pieces of felt that fit snugly between the strings to mute the sound. So I will lift the pedal. I will use the screwdriver to open up the strings a little bit so I can insert the screw without damaging the strings. Then we have this, so it dangles, the washers dangle obviously, which is why I like to use quite loose, larger washers than you would in any sort of construction project. So they rattle, and then this particular note will also, on top of this, get a little weather stripping. So now with that added, that will be quite muted and just the dangle. So you barely hear the pitch. And it's just a little dangle. And if I put the stripping here on this note, And I will have a moment in this piece where I will play this, and it sounds a bit like a percussion band or a drum set. Right? If I take it out for a second, if I succeed in that. Play the exact same notes, it would sound like this. So that's basically what John Cage does to modify the sound. How's that?